deals for baseball players. People don't realize that. They tend to scoff it off, right? If if Freeman has any of those, and I think it's shoulder again, but if he has that, he's in trouble because that's going to be a long and nagging injury. For Bregman, I'll tell you, he's got some serious power. 41 homers, 122 RBIs, 122 runs, 112 RBIs, and a 296 average last year. The thing about Bregman that I really like is he's got that ever elusive third base shortstop eligibility. And you can move him. Basically, that gives you freedom to put him in any of the infield positions, more or less. Again, I think most of the Houston hitters are going to struggle this year. I think Bregman will be one of the main targets with a lot of these teams as they go through, and he's going to have to face up to that adversity. We'll see how he does. The next guy, we're going to get into these guys I really like, though. These next 5 guys, I really want to kind of understand why I have them the way that I do, okay? And I'm going to give you the 5, and then we'll talk about them. It's Devers, ADP 23.2. It's Rendon, ADP 18.6. It's Suarez, ADP 68.6. Alonso, 27.2. And Olsen, 64.6. Take those ADPs out. That makes sense, right? So let's talk about it. Why does it make sense? Why did I put Devers ahead of Rendon? Why is Suarez up with this group? What's with Alonso and Olsen together? Those are the questions I want to talk about, okay? So Devers versus Rendon versus Suarez, when you're talking about making your group, are these guys all fairly equal talents? Right off the top, before we start talking statistics and we start breaking down like how I think about it. Again, this is how I break it down. This is how I think about it, right? You guys are entitled to go and make your own list, but the important thing about making this list, and I want to stress this, when you make this list, I feel it's super important to not look at ADP. Not even just copy the list of the guys and then just take that away, right? Because then it's your opinion of who the players are. So that's what I did. I went and I made this list, and then I matched up the ADP to go with it. I'm a nerd, George. I can't help it. I checked it more than twice. I'll tell you that right now, buddy. So when making this, I came down to this quandary. Devers versus Rendon versus Suarez. To me, they're all really closely. They're comparable. Let's put it that way. I'll start with Devers. Again, 23.2 means he's an end of the second round player. Let me tell you about him. Last year, he was second in the majors in hits with 201. He was first in total bases with 359. He was second in doubles with 54, and he was 10th in RBIs with 115. He was first in the major leagues with extra base hits last year with 90. He's 23 years old, guys. He's 23 years old. Think about how he's still a baby. He stole 8 bases. He has potential to get in that yellow zone with stolen bases. Does Rendon? Shit, no. Neither does Suarez. That's why I put him above these guys when I'm breaking this down. The next guy, Rendon. His ADP is 16.6. It's a little high. Last year, career high average, 319. 11 points higher than the year prior, his prior career high. 34 homers, career high. 25 prior, back in 17. Runs, 117, career high. 111, all the way back in 2014. An RBI, pause for effect, 126 RBIs last year out of Rendon. Before that, it was 116. So, I don't want you guys to go to extreme with this. It's not that I don't like Anthony Rendon. I'm just saying he had a really freaking good year last year, and it's doubtful that he puts up those good of numbers next year. I think he's still capable of being in the green in many of these categories, but I think maybe the 34th falls to a 28. He could be, George. He could be. He's in a great lineup. I've touted him. You've heard me talk about him. You listen to me all the time, so I know you've heard me talk about him. I'm just saying, when you break it down and you think about it and you look at like his 3-year trend, there could be some regression there. All he has to do is play the best he ever played again. Back-to-back years. After moving cities. Going from totally one different coast to the next. I get that, you know I love Joe Madden. You know I love Mike Trout. You know he's in a good situation. But I just think that's a lot for him to overcome to put up career numbers again. That's why I like Devers more, guys. That's why. I've gotten no feedback from who to take. Guys, should I take Gorman? Should I take Gorman? Should I take... I got to look it up again now. That hair is great, ain't it? Oh, shoot. Anyway, so Rendon I have below Devers. The other guy in this equation, and you guys mentioned it, the injury with Suarez. You know, were it not for the injury, I probably would have put Suarez above Rendon, but there is that risk. Here's the thing about Suarez that I love. Oh, okay. Brandon Marsh was the other one. That's right. The thing about Suarez that I love is he's still really undervalued. At 65, if I could tell you in the 6th round, you could get someone who hit 271 with 49 homers, 87 runs, and 103 RBIs, would you think that's a value? I know I think it is. I mean, when you look at it as the number 7 player at this bucket, Suarez seems to make a lot of sense here. So let's talk about why. There's 2 different things going on here. So we're talking about first versus third base, and we're kind of mushing them together, right? So Suarez versus Alonso. Let's compare those two's numbers, and let's then think about why I did this way. So Suarez versus Alonso. Suarez hit 271, Alonso hit 260. Suarez had 49 homers, Alonso had 53. Suarez had 87 homers. Alonso had 103 and 103 to 120 in RBIs. My argument is, I think you're going to see a negative regression from Pete Alonso this year. So much so that I take Matt Olson in front of him. That's my point of this. So, let's rerun it. Devers, Rendon, Suarez, Olson jumps Alonso, and then Alonso comes in ninth. So you're talking about ADP. 68.6 for Suarez, 64.4 for Olson, and 27.2 for Alonso. I'm dropping Pete Alonso, but it's not so much about Pete Alonso, it's more about those guys I put in front of him. That's why it's important for you to do this. Because if you really like Matt Olson, you better be prepared to draft him where you draft Pete Alonso. My whole point, George, Matt Olson went 44. Matt Olson's ADP is 64. So if you're making this list and the ADP of Pete Alonso is 27, and you value Matt Olson ahead of Pete Alonso, you better damn well be prepared to take Matt Olson in Pete Alonso's place. That's a perfect point. You fucking hit it on the head, George. Thank you. That's my point. That's why it's important to do this. That's why this is fun, though, right? So, we talk about, we compared Suarez to Alonso. Now let's compare Alonso to Olson. Because Olson's the point here. Suarez and Olson are the points. Olson, 36 homers, 73 runs, 91 RBIs, 267 average. Alonso, 53, 103, 120, 260. Here's the thing. Well, I'm not one to sit here and discount what Pete Alonso did last year. He had a great year. He has prodigious power. There's no doubt about it. All I'm saying is, all you have to do is buy into this argument. Let's say Pete Alonso has a sophomore slump. Maybe pitchers adjust to him. Perhaps he doesn't get as many pitches as he did last year. I'm not saying he has a bad year. I'm just saying there's some regression. Last year, so the sophomore slump. Last year was probably the last year you could say Olson qualified as a sophomore slump. Highly touted in the offseason. Highly drafted, going into drafts. Gets hit in the wrist in the preseason. In Japan, the third game of the year, breaks bones in his wrist. We're all thinking, great. Here's Olson, this power hitter. He breaks his bones in his wrist. He's probably going to miss a bunch of time. Well, he missed some time. He missed 35 of the first 37 games, to be exact. When he's getting ready to come back, everybody's saying, oh, power hitters, their power's sapped when they come back from this wrist injury. He's not going to be able to hit the ball of the park. What do you do? Well, he hit the ball of the park. In fact, he had 36 homers. He missed over a month